A roadblock, that's what the kid with the smirk called me, right before security marched me out like a common thief. 30 years of my life gone, just for refusing to let his shortcuts get people killed. My name's Marc Coleman, but folks just call me Mark. And let me tell you, construction, it ain't just a job for me, it's in my damn DNA. My old man, God rest his soul, he wasn't much for fancy words, but the lessons he hammered into me were stronger than any steel beam. I can still smell the sawdust and the faint tine of oil from his workshop, see the lines etched deep around his eyes from years of squinting at blueprints and facing down the sun. Marcus, he'd say, his voice raspy but firm as bedrock, a man's worth ain't in the money he stacks, it's in the integrity of what he builds. You cut corners on a job. Son, you are not just cheating the client, you're spitting on your own name, your asterisk family's asterisk name. Those words, they stuck. They became the blueprint for my life. So yeah, I built a reputation. Not for being the fastest, maybe not always the cheapest, but for doing things asterisk right asterisk. Rock solid. The kind of work you could stake your life on, because sometimes people literally did. I remember the Westgate Bridge expansion years back. Everyone said we couldn't hit the tolerances they wanted, that the weather window was too tight. But we dug in, my crew and I, late nights, cold coffee, aching backs, but when we finished, that bridge was a thing of beauty, perfect down to the last rivet. That's the feeling I lived for. That quiet pride. My wife, Sarah, she'd see it on my face when I came home, bone-tired but smiling. She understood. Bishop Construction. For the longest time, that name meant something. Arthur Bishop, the old man who started it all, he was cut from the same cloth as my dad. Principled. Tough but fair. He'd walk a site, knew every man's name, and he wouldn't tolerate sloppy work. No, sir. Under art, we weren't just building structures, we were building a legacy. There was a sense of honor in it. Asterisk, yeah, I work for Bishop Asterisk, you'd say, and your chest would puff out just a little. But times change, don't they? Old Art, he finally hung up his hard hat, and his son, Richie, well, Richie was a different breed. Polished shoes, sharp suits, and an MBA that seemed to whisper profit over people in his ear every damn morning. Slowly, then all at once, the soul of Bishop Construction started to bleed out. Suddenly, it was all about speed, about cutting costs, about hitting quarterly targets no matter what. Solid craftsmanship. That became inefficient. Safety protocols. Bureaucratic hurdles. It was like watching something precious get tarnished, covered in grime. Guys like that smirking little punk Kyle Baxter, they thrived in that new climate. Climbers, all of them trampling over anyone and anything to get ahead, to make Richie look good, to fatten their own wallets. They started tossing safety aside like it was yesterday's garbage, and with it, the very heart of what Bishop Construction once stood for. And me? I was starting to feel like a relic, a stubborn old fool still clinging to values they'd already marked for demolition. The Riverview Tower. That was supposed to be a landmark, one of Richie's shiny new jewels in the city's skyline. But from where I stood, squinting at a fresh pallet of high tensile bolts, it was starting to look like a damn tombstone in the making. Something just felt off. The markings weren't quite right, the finish a little too dull. My gut, honed by decades of handling the genuine article, was screaming bloody murder. I grabbed one, felt the weight of it. Too light. I rolled it in my palm, the metal cool against my skin. Leo, I called over to my electrical foreman, who was checking a conduit run nearby. Leo Maxwell, good man. Loyal. Knew his stuff inside and out. He ambled over, wiping grease from his hands. What's up, Mark? Take a look at these bolts. Will you tell me I'm crazy? He picked one up, turned it over, his brow furrowed. Huh, these ain't just the 490s we usually get, are they? Look cheaper. Cheaper. That word, under Richie Bishop's reign, had become the company mantra. I pulled out the project specs, the pages worn from constant reference. My finger traced the line, ASTM 490 or approved equivalent. These sure as hell didn't feel equivalent. They felt like a catastrophic failure waiting for the right amount of stress. Get me a micrometer and a Rockwell tester from the shed, Leo, quietly. The tests confirmed it. These weren't just cheap, they were dangerously substandard. Potential strength was way below what was needed for a structure this size. Using these was like building a house of cards in a hurricane. My blood ran cold. Kids would play in the plaza below this tower. Families would live and work in it. The image of my dad's disappointed face, the ghost of his words about integrity, flashed in my mind. Asterisk spitting on your own name, son. Asterisk. I didn't even bother trying to find a quiet moment with Kyle Baxter. I strode right into his ridiculously oversized side office, the unboxed bolts clanking in a canvas bag I carried. He was on the phone, laughing, one of his $500 shoes propped up on his gleaming desk. He waved me off dismissively, mid-chuckle. I waited with my jaw tight, the anger hot coil in my stomach. When he finally hung up, he leaned back, all smarmy confidence. What's so urgent, Coleman? Got a fire to put out with your face. His little cronies in the office snickered. I dumped the bolts on his pristine desk. They skittered across the polished surface, making a racket. These, Baxter, these are the problem. They're counterfeit, or at best, dangerously below spec. We used these, and this tower is a death trap. He didn't even look at them closely. He just waved his hand. That damn dismissive wave again. Oh, for crying out loud, Coleman, are you still stuck in the dark ages? Henderson in purchasing signed off on these, said they were a cost-effective alternative that meets minimum requirements. We're on a tight schedule, and an even tighter budget. Thanks to Rich breathing down my neck, we don't have time for your antiquarian fussiness. Minimum requirements? I could feel the blood pounding in my temples. Kyle, these aren't just cutting corners. This is playing Russian roulette with people's lives. We're talking about structural integrity. This isn't some garden shed. It's a skyscraper. His eyes, usually darting around looking for his next angle, fixed on me, cold and hard. Your concern is noted, Coleman. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a deadline to meet. The engineers approved the supplier. It's fine. His voice was clipped, final. His eyes were fixed on that damn deadline, not on the potential twisted steel and shattered lives they saw so clearly. Fine? I repeated, incredulous. It's anything but fine. I could see it then, plain as day. He didn't care. The bottom line, the bonus, Richard's pat on the back, that's all that mattered. My dad's lessons, Archbishop's legacy, it meant nothing to this new breed. I walked out of there shaking with a rage I hadn't felt in years. That night I barely slept. Sarah tried to soothe me, but the image of those faulty bolts, of that tower crumbling, haunted me. 2 days later, Mr. Henderson, the guy from purchasing who'd apparently signed off on those death trap bolts, called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable, wouldn't meet my eye. Miss Jenkins from HR was there too, a folder sitting primly in her lap. It was short and brutal. Marc, Henderson mumbled, fiddling with a pen. Due to ongoing restructuring and reports of insubordination, we've had to make the difficult decision to terminate your employment, effective immediately. Insubordination. For trying to stop them from killing people. The irony was a bitter pill. When I went to clear out my locker, my personal tools were gone. 30 years of accumulation. Sockets my dad had given me, wrenches I'd bought with my first decent paycheck, specialized gear that cost thousands. Vanished. Just gone. Site security said they hadn't seen a thing. Kyle Baxter, when I managed to track him down, just shrugged with that infuriating smirk. Yes, you should have kept better track of your stuff, old man, things walk. The final twist of the knife came a week later. I started putting out feelers for new work, calling old contacts. The doors weren't just closed, they were slammed in my face. Whispers followed me. Difficult, troublemaker, didn't get along with management. Bishop Construction, under Rich and Kyle's expert guidance, was already spinning their poison, painting me as some disgruntled, incompetent fool who couldn't keep up. They were trying to bury me, to erase me. Little did those bastards know I wasn't just some relic. My dad taught me to build strong, but he also taught me to be thorough. For months, ever since Rich's new vision started stinking up the place, I'd been keeping records. Every safety violation I'd flagged and seen ignored, every shortcut I'd argued against, every hushed conversation about value engineering that really meant cutting quality to the bone. I had copies of emails, photos, dated notes in a dozen cheap spiral notebooks. It wasn't just a file, it was a goddamn mountain of evidence, a testament to their greed and recklessness. They thought they'd silence Marc Coleman. They had no idea I was just getting started. The OSHA hotline number felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my hand. My palm was sweating, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Asterisk, this is it, Mark. No going back. Asterisk, I thought of those families, blissfully unaware, who'd be walking under that tower, living in it, trusting it. I thought of my dad, his callous hands, the unwavering honesty in his eyes. Asterisk, spitting on your own name, son. Asterisk, no. Not me. Not while I still had breath in my body. I punched in the numbers, my breath catching in my throat. The words spilled out, a torrent of carefully documented facts, dates, and the sheer terrifying truth about those bolts. It didn't take long for the hornet's nest to erupt. My phone shrieked later that day, Kyle Baxter's name blazing on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but some defiant spark inside me made me hit the green button. Coleman, you son of a... He didn't even bother with a greeting. His voice was a raw, jagged thing, seething with a fury so potent I could almost feel the heat of it through the phone. You think you're clever, you old washed-up fool. You think you can just derail my project, asterisk, my career, asterisk, with your little fairy tales to OSHA. It's not a fairy tale, Kyle, I said, my own voice surprisingly steady, though my insides were churning. It's the truth, those bolts are a death trap. A harsh, barking laugh echoed down the line. The truth is your finish, Coleman, you hear me. Finished. I'll make sure you never swing a hammer in this state again. Every door will be slammed in your face. You'll be lucky to get a job sweeping floors at a gas station by the time I'm done with you. You'll be a goddamn pariah. His threats weren't idle. The next few weeks were a brutal awakening. Calls went unreturned. Friendly contact suddenly became distant, their voices strained. Sorry, Mark, nothing right now. We're not really hiring for your skill set. Heard you had some issues over at Bishop. Asterisk issues. Asterisk, that's what they call trying to prevent a catastrophe. Kyle's poison was working fast, seeping into every corner of the industry. The blackballing was real, and it was suffocating. Sarah watched me, her eyes filled with a mixture of worry and pride, but even her unwavering support couldn't entirely fill the gnawing pit of despair that was opening up inside me. Then came the official-looking envelopes, delivered by a stone-faced courier. Cease and desist orders from Bishop Construction's high-priced lawyers, demanding I stop my defamatory statements. And the real kicker? Accusations of stealing intellectual property, my own damn notebooks, the ones filled with their negligence. The audacity of it almost choked me. They weren't just trying to silence me, they were trying to paint me as the criminal. It was a coordinated assault, designed to crush me under a mountain of legal threats and financial ruin. Night after night, I'd sit at the kitchen table, the threatening letter spread out before me, Sarah's hand resting gently on my shoulder. The weight of it all felt immense, like I was trying to hold back a down-tidal wave with my bare hands. Me, one man, against the entire Bishop Construction machine, with all its money and its lawyers and its political connections. Fear, cold and sharp, would sometimes whisper in the dead of night. Asterisk, maybe they're right, Mark. Maybe you should have just kept your mouth shut. Who are you to fight this? Asterisk. But then I'd see those cheap, shiny bolts again in my mind's eye. I'd see the faces of the people who would have been in that tower. And the anger, a righteous, burning fire, would flare up again, chasing away the shadows. They wanted to bury me. They wanted to silence the truth. Let them try. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They saw an old man, past his prime. They didn't see the steel in my spine, forged in the same fires as the good, honest metal I'd worked with my whole life. This wasn't just about my job anymore, or even my reputation. This was about right and wrong. This was about the soul of the work I dedicated my life to. And I wasn't about to let them spit on that. Just when the walls felt like they were closing in, when the bottom of the barrel started to look like a penthouse apartment, something shifted. I was nursing a bit of coffee in some greasy spoon off the highway, the kind of place where hope goes to die, staring at the latest legal threat from Bishop's goons. The ink on the page seemed to mock me, bold and arrogant. Asterisk, they're gonna break you, Mark. They're gonna bleed you dry and leave you for dead. Asterisk, my stomach was in knots, the fear a constant, cold companion. Then a shadow fell over my table. I looked up, expecting the waitress with a lukewarm refill, but instead I saw a familiar face, etched with worry lines I hadn't seen there before. Leo Maxwell. My old electrical foreman, a good man, a solid man. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes darting around the diner like he was expecting a sniper to take him out. My God, what had they done to him? Mark, he said, his voice barely a whisper, sliding into the booth opposite me. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. He leaned in close, the smell of stale coffee and fear clinging to him. You gotta be careful, they're watching everyone, listening. He slipped a small flash drive across the table, palming it like it was a hand grenade, his knuckles white. This is everything, more than you know. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. My hand closed around it, the cool metal a stark contrast to my clammy palm. A flash drive. What the hell was on this thing? What is it, Leo? I asked, my voice hoarse barely above the clatter of plates from the kitchen. His eyes haunted and wide met mine. The rot goes deeper, Mark. Way deeper than just some cheap bolts. We're talking fake safety reports, inspection sign-offs that never happened, systematic fraud. Kickbacks, phantom invoices, it's been going on for years. Richie Bishop's been cooking the books, lining his pockets while putting God knows how many lives on the line. Baxter's just a symptom, Mark, not the disease. He's just the latest vulture feeding on the carcass. My blood ran cold. Asterisk systematic fraud. Asterisk, it was more monstrous than I could have ever imagined. This wasn't just negligence anymore, this was a deliberate, calculated conspiracy. Leo looked like he was about to break. Get out of here, Leo, I urged him. Don't risk your neck any more than you already have. He just nodded, a hunted look in his eyes, and was gone as quickly as he'd appeared, melting back into the city's grimy afternoon, leaving me with that tiny stick of dynamite in my hand. I sat there, stunned, the weight of his words pressing down on me, heavier than any steel beam. My mind raced. Asterisk, who else knew? How far up did this go? Asterisk, just as I was trying to process this new, terrifying layer of deceit, my phone, an old burner I'd started using, buzzed on the table. An unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it, figuring it was another reporter sniffing around, or worse, one of Baxter's hired goons trying to spook me. But something, some gut feeling, made me answer. Hello? A voice, gravelly with age but firm, a voice I hadn't heard in years but would recognize anywhere, came through the line. Marc Coleman? My heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Mr. Bishop, Arthur Bishop. A dry chuckle like stones rolling together. The one and only son. Heard you've been stirring up a real hornet's nest over there. Good. It's about damn time someone did. I was speechless. Arthur Bishop. The founder. The legend. The man who'd built Bishop Construction on a bedrock of integrity, whose name used to mean something in this town, was calling me. After all these years of silence, of him being a ghost in the machine his son had corrupted. I've been watching what Richard has done to the company I poured my life into, he continued, a profound sadness in his voice that quickly hardened into a steely resolve I remembered so well. He's turned it into a pigsty, Mark, a damn pigsty, spitting on everything I stood for, everything your father and I believed in building. He thinks this old man is just going to sit back in his rocking chair and watch his legacy crumble into dust. Not on my watch. I could hear papers rustling on his end, the sound crisp and deliberate. I have my own files, Mark. Things Richie doesn't know I know. Things that'll nail his hide to the barn door. They think we're just a couple of old dogs, you and I, past our prime, easily muzzled, but maybe, and I could almost hear the grim, determined smile in his voice, maybe these old dogs still have some teeth left, you in, son. Was I in? A jolt, pure, unadulterated adrenaline, shot through me, chasing away the last vestiges of despair that had been clinging to me like grave dirt. Leo's flash drive felt heavy and powerful in my pocket, a tangible piece of the damning truth. And now this. Arthur Bishop. It was like the cavalry arriving in the 11th hour, bugles blaring, riding out of the damn sunrise. The fight wasn't over. Hell, it felt like it was just truly beginning. Mr. Bishop, I said, my voice no longer shaking, but ringing with a newfound strength, a fire I thought had been extinguished. They have no idea what's about to hit them. Two old construction dogs, indeed. And we were about to bite back. Hard. The dominoes started to fall, and man, did they fall hard. Arthur, bless his crusty old soul, still had contacts that Richie, in his arrogance, had completely overlooked. Old-school guys, men of their word, who remembered what Bishop Construction used asterisk to stand for. He didn't just have files, he had a network, a silent army waiting for a signal. And Leo's flash drive? That was the damn bat signal. We fed it all, every doctored report, every phantom invoice, every chilling detail of Richie's systematic plunder to Rebecca Finch, that bulldog investigative journalist who'd been sniffing around the edges of Richie's empire for months. She sank her teeth into it like a starving wolf. Her expose hit the city like a goddamn earthquake. The headlines screamed betrayal, fraud, corporate malfeasance. It was glorious. Here, unadulterated poetic justice splashed across the front page. The very next morning, OSHA descended on the Riverview site like an avenging swarm. I heard they practically had to use a crowbar to pry Kyle Baxter out of his fancy side office. He was yelling, sputtering, trying to throw his weight around. His face beat red, but his weight didn't mean jack anymore. The evidence was irrefutable, cold, hard, and undeniable. Those sheep bolts? They were exhibiting a case that was growing by the hour. The project was shut down faster than you could say public hazard. Kyle, oh poor Kyle. Richie Bishop threw him under the bus so fast, the skid marks were probably visible from space. 1 minute he was the golden boy, the next he was the convenient scapegoat, his smoking face plastered all over the news, his career in smoking ruins. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I almost felt a flicker of not pity. Definitely not pity. Just a cold, hard satisfaction watching his arrogance crumble. But Richie Bishop, he was the main event. The feds got involved. Suddenly, all those fancy $1,000 an hour lawyers he kept on retainer weren't looking so smug. The words criminal investigation, racketeering, endangerment started appearing next to his name in the papers. His carefully crafted image of a savvy, cutting-edge businessman shattered, replaced by the greasy reality of a common con man who'd gambled with people's lives for a few extra bucks. The empire Arthur had poured his heart and soul into building, the one Richie had systematically rotted from within, it just imploded. It was a beautiful, terrible thing to watch. Like a controlled demolition, only this time it was justice bringing the whole corrupt structure crushing down around his ears. And me? Well, word got around. The truth has a funny way of surfacing, even when powerful people try to bury it under tons of concrete and lies. My name, once dragged through the mud, started to shine again. That insubordinate troublemaker label. It got replaced with man of integrity, a whistleblower, even a hero in some circles, though that last one still feels a bit strange. Doors that had been slammed in my face with such finality suddenly creaked open, then swung wide. I remember sitting in my kitchen, the scent of Sarah's coffee filling the air, real coffee this time, not that greasy spoon's well. She was holding my hand, her eyes shining, when that first call came in from Robert Vance, owner of Bridgewell Contracting, an old friend of Arthur's, a man cut from the same honourable cloth. Mark, he'd said, his voice gruff but kind, heard you're available, and heard you're the kind of man who doesn't back down from doing what's right. Got a big project coming up, the kind that needs a steady hand and an honest eye. Interested. Interested. It was like breathing fresh, clean air after being trapped in a collapsed mine, the dust of their lies finally settling. Standing on the new site now, the early morning sun warming my face, the scent of fresh lumber and possibility in the air, it's different. My new assistant, Chloe, she actually listens. When I point something out, there's no eye-rolling, no condescending smirks, just respect. Asterisk, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what I fought for. Asterisk. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and Sarah's asleep beside me, I think back to those dark days. Fear, cold and metallic, clawing at my gut, the despair that felt like a permanent shadow. The way Baxter looked at me like I was nothing more than dirt on his expensive Italian shoes. The crushing humiliation of being escorted off that site like a common criminal. Asterisk, they're gonna break you, Mark. They're gonna bleed you dry. Asterisk, that was the whisper in my head back then, a constant, tormenting echo. But they didn't. They underestimated me. They underestimated Arthur. They underestimated the simple, bedrock power of the plain, unvarnished truth. It wasn't easy. There were nights Sarah held me while I just raged, the anger white-hot fire in my chest. I stared at the ceiling, the weight of it all pressing down, wondering if I'd thrown away everything we'd ever built, our security, our future. But every time I thought about giving up, every time that whisper of defeat started to creep in, I'd picture those cheap, self-centered bolts, those fake safety reports. I'd hear Leo's terrified whisper, his face pale and drawn, the rot goes deeper, Mark, way deeper. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. My father always said, son, your integrity is the only thing they can't take from you unless you willingly give it away. He was right. Richie Bishop, for all his money and power, he gave his away, piece by piece, deal by shady deal, until there was nothing left but a hollow, grasping shell of a man. I look at the blueprint spread out on the hood of my truck. This new skyscraper we're building, solid, honest, built to last, a testament to doing things the right way. And I know, deep in my soul, we didn't just win a battle. We won the damn war. My reputation wasn't just cleared, it was forged anew in the fires of that fight. And this time, stronger than any steel they could ever try to use. I sleep soundly these days, Sarah's hand in mine. And that, my friends, that peace, that's a victory you can't put a price on. That's the kind of wealth that truly endures. They really thought they could break me, didn't they? Thought they could shut me up, make me an example just because I chose my integrity over their filthy money. But they had no clue what they were up against. A man who sleeps with a clear conscience, the asterisk that's a strength they couldn't measure. Asterisk, yet it cost me. Oh, it cost me plenty, and I definitely stirred up a hornet's nest in this town. But standing up for what's right, knowing I might have saved lives, dragging the rotten system into the daylight, that feeling, man, that's a victory no pile of cash could ever buy. Some battles, you don't pick it, they pick asterisk you asterisk, but when they come for the very core of who you are, you plant your feet, you hold that down the line, because true wealth, the kind that sticks with you, it's not about what you pile up, it's about what you refuse, absolutely refuse to let them take away from you. Asterisk, that's the only treasure that truly matters. Asterisk.